we are going to chat about the Supreme Court assignment. I'm a big fan of making sure in my class that you get the option to actually try out these kinds of things that we're learning in the classroom. So you might not remember a specific case we study in the class, but I want you to be able to look up cases. If you hear something in the news and it interests you, and specifically at the Supreme Court level, that's where the big changes in society that you're hearing about this stuff. This assignment is designed for you to be able to look at a case that interests you and figure out how to basically find information on a case, understand it, and then share that information. It's a big part of your grade. So you'll see here, 150 points. That's 15%. This is worth more than that exam you just took. And now the fun thing about this project and all the projects in the class is you can always submit a draft to me all the way up until 3 days before it's due. I'm sorry, but I have to set that deadline the 3 days before it's due so that if you do send it to me, I have time to review and you have time to make changes. What I don't want is to send you back a bunch of changes and it's like 2 hours before the deadline and everyone's stressed out then. Right, so it rewards you for doing it early. I encourage you to do it early. Now I have a video included with this already, which shows you how to find a case. So the U.S. Supreme Court, again, is the highest level court in our nation, and they're dealing with some really big cases. They heard a union case recently that's going to really impact some of the offices. And so I want you to have a chance to find a case that you're actually interested in. If you're more interested in criminal law, you can look into that. Any topic that we cover in this class is fair game. So really any of the Supreme Court cases you can look at. Okay, so even if it's criminal law, we're going to study crimes, you can certainly look at that. So I'm going to pull up this as samples so you can kind of see the outcome. Remember, we were talking about keeping the end in mind. This is a sample of what you'll be doing. It's a 2 to 3 page paper. Keep in mind that's single spaced. If you do this double spaced, you really have half the content I need. I need to make sure you have the right amount of information. So single spaced, you'll see here they've chosen the case Hine versus North Carolina. It's really important in these cases that you find recent ones. So you don't want to go back. I know Brown versus Board of Education was a great case. It changed a lot, but it's really, really old. I want you to find current cases going on so we can see what's affecting our society today and the business field at large. So you'll see here there's an introduction. And then down here, in the case, it's simple. You're summarizing what's going on. And so you're reading a case and you're telling me the story. What happened in this story? You know, hear the issue before the court. Remember, sometimes it's not necessarily was this person guilty or not. It could be, you know, is it fair to show this piece of evidence at the trial? So the issue before the court might be different than what you'd imagine in the story. Here they're talking about the Fourth Amendment, which we've seen a lot in this class, whether or not the search and seizure, the evidence that they found in this case was okay to find. That was the big part of the case. Okay, not whether or not this person was guilty or not guilty. The big thing students mess up on in this, in general, is this part, the opinions. So I'll ask you to tell me about what the Supreme Court justices said about the case, their opinion. Now there's how many justices? 9. And to win, how many do you need? 5. And so most Supreme Court cases, you'll see, it's usually like a 5-4 split. So you know the outcome of the case, there's a majority holding. That's what at least 5 of them think. And they're going to explain their reasoning, and that's important. If we're using this as precedent, that reasoning can help us say, hey, based on the same reasoning, hold the same thing for my client. Now, where students sometimes struggle is there's more than just a majority opinion. There was 4 people that also said, I disagree. That's what we call a dissent. Dissent, disagree. And they explain why they disagree with that outcome, okay, what their opinion is. Now, there's also this weird thing called a concurrence. Who knows what a concurrence is? What?
When they agree, but for different reasons than the majority.
Good. You summarized that so well. Thank you, Glenn. When they agree, but for different reasons. So they agree this person should win the case, but not for the same reasons you think. For instance, you want to think about this in terms of math. I know you all love math. We were just talking about that. 2 + 2 = 4, so does 2 × 2, right? Same outcome. It's still 4, but there was a different way we got there. The concurrence that happens, some judges say, yeah, you know, I want Diane to win. She wins, but I don't agree with why. I have a different reason behind it. So they'll be with the majority. They'll be part of that 5 that says Diane wins, but they'll have a concurrence that explains their different reasoning. Okay? So you'll see there usually are at least three different parts to that opinion. What the judges think the outcome should be, the majority, what they held, why they disagree, some of the judges, and then why they do agree, but for other reasons, the concurrence. that pick analysis we've been working on all semester is your own opinion. If you were a Supreme Court justice sitting on this case, what would you decide and why? Using concepts you're learning in this class, what would be your opinion? Okay, it doesn't have to be the same as what most of the Supreme Court held. You get to have your own opinion here. This is where you're learning the important skills that sometimes students struggle with. Critical thinking is a big piece, just thinking about what you're seeing and how you feel about it, and being able to apply our coursework to support that opinion. So here they're talking about the Fourth Amendment. Again, they're using our coursework to do this, and they're talking about their own opinion and how it aligns more with the dissent than the majority. They chose to go with how Justice Sotomayor described this case. So we see a really good pick analysis. We see the work cited here. So that shows you a sample. Now the fun part about this project that I have you do in this class, you spend a lot of time working on this stuff. I want you to share it with your classmates. So business is about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I will ask you to present. What I won't ask you to do is come up here and present in front of everyone. Yay! I know some of you are scared. What I've asked students to do, what I've gotten feedback on and has gone well in the past, is we've done smaller groups like you're in right now. And you present in your smaller group setting to each other, and then we'll do a rotation and you'll present to another group as well. That way what will happen is you'll get to talk a lot about your case you know a lot about and share that information. Your classmates will share information about their own cases, and in doing so on that day, you'll have the opportunity to learn about a lot of the big Supreme Court cases going on today. Does that sound good? Good. While you practice some presenting skills. Okay, so I'm going to show you the instructions now. You do also have that sample. You have the rubric. So in the instructions, you'll see in that 2 to 3 page paper, you want to introduce the case. You're going to describe the parties involved. Be careful. I have a lot of students who gloss over that one. In describing the parties involved, if there's a business, for example, Abercrombie, do some research on Abercrombie's website and talk about what's the size of this business, where are they located, what do they do. You know, Abercrombie's a very big clothing store. Most of us are familiar with Abercrombie. It could be a smaller business here, ABC store we don't know a lot about. Remember, we want to always write toward an 8th grade reading level. Not all 8th graders are always going to know these different businesses. So same with if you're doing Apple or Samsung, they're big businesses many of you are familiar with. You just want to give a little information about that business. You might see in some of your cases, for example, Abercrombie versus EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. If they're there, they're the ones who are the party in the case. You want to explain why. Well, they're the party in the case because they're the ones who handle these kinds of cases. If it's the state of Maryland, well, the government prosecutes criminal cases. We learned that in this class. So you want to explain the parties involved. Then you want to talk about the facts of the case. It's just telling the story. We do that in class all the time when we look at these sample cases. You're going to talk about the holdings of the lower court. Remember, it made it all the way to the Supreme Court, started in the trial court somewhere. You know, what did the trial court think, the lowest court? What happened on appeal? So the history of the case. You want to identify any relevant laws and regulations from our class. You'll see those also specified in the case. The issue before the court. Usually you'll see this noted as the question presented. That's what they'll call it in the description of the holding. Then here, this is the part we were talking about. You're going to talk about the different competing opinions of the justices, which are what 3? It's called the majority, the dissent, the people who disagree, and then what's the third one? Concurrence. So you're going to describe those here, and then decide where you stand. You know, which justice do you most align with, and that's where that pick analysis will come in at the end of your paper. Now you'll see here, and I'm going to show you in a moment, there's also a YouTube video showing you this. This is cases on the SCOTUS blog site, Supreme Court of the United States. I'm going to show you that site now. What happens is they hear cases. You can usually hear the audio recording from the disputes going on, the questions being asked. They don't actually publish the opinions until it can be months later. And so because of that, because you don't get that published opinion for a while, be careful not to use cases that are going on right now. Like there's a big one about unions going on literally this week in the news right now. There's no published opinion yet, which means it'd be very difficult to do this project where you're analyzing that opinion. I'm going to ask you to use cases going 5 years back, 2017 through 2012. So you don't do a case that doesn't actually have an opinion to talk about. So let's go to the SCOTUS blog site. And again, there's a video, a YouTube video on the assignment about this, and I'm recording, I'll upload this for you. So this is the SCOTUS blog website. It It has all the information about the U.S. Supreme Court. You'll see featured posts, some information about what's currently going on. If you click on where it says merit cases, you'll see for each term, they always start in October, and they'll have these terms where they hear this kind of stuff. It goes all the way back here till 2010. I want you to focus on the 2012 to 2017 years. Again, if you click on 2018, I can't click on anything. If you click on 2018, let's see if this one has it. Okay. See how it says opinion TBD? So we have information about what's been going on in this case. They hear the case, but they haven't actually published what they think about it and what the outcome should be yet. And so you don't want to use any of the 2018 cases so you don't run into that issue. 2017 back through 2012, you'll see lots of cases. And here you can just read. I know you can't read from your seats. It's okay. You don't need to. But as you're looking through, you can read the descriptions about what the case is about, what the issue is. And if it's something that excites you, you can click on that case. So let's say Ernst & Young, I'm interested in working for that firm. That might get you excited and wanting to learn more. If you click on it, usually you'll see an opinion. You'll notice here, even in 2017, there's still some without opinions. So if that happens, it says TBD, to be determined. You want to go back and choose another case. Here, wow, these still don't have either. You might want to go back to 2016 so you don't keep running into that issue. Another thing you can do if there's something that interests you, like criminal law, you can say crime, and it'll show you where those words pop up. On a PC, that's Control F, helps you find information quickly. On a Mac, it's Apple, Command F, will help you quickly search information. It's a great tool. So here I can see Dean versus US has something to do with crime. If I click on it, you'll see it doesn't say TBD. We have a published opinion. When I click on this published opinion, if you start reading through, you'll see this one was a pretty short one. It's unanimous. It was only about 11 pages. Some of these are 100 pages. Oh my gosh, Professor Weiser's so mean. She's making us read a 100-page case. That's insane. I'm going to go choose this one that was only 11 pages. Please don't do that. So you'll see in the instructions, I don't want you to read through 100-page opinions. I get it. Also, these are not always very clear. You'd think lawyers would be great writers, but especially judges, it's not always the case. There's usually not a lot of clarity. Because of that, there are a lot of sites that summarize these cases in more like 2 to 3 pages. And then there's also a lot of news articles about these cases because they affect society. So what I ask you to do is take a case, like we'll do Dean versus US. You want to go to Google. If you're going to Yelp or any of those things, just type in Google. It'll bring you to the right place to do a search, okay? So I go to Google and I'm typing in Dean versus US Supreme Court case. I just get all that information in there. So I'll see here some sites pop up. There's that SCOTUS blog site we were just on because that's the main site, but right above it, an even more popular hit is Oyez. Oyez is a really popular legal site that basically summarizes cases. They call them case briefs. So this will be really helpful for all of you you can go straight to OYEZ, Oyez, or you can do what I just did in Google. And you'll see it gives you all the information about the case, just like we were just discussing. The facts of the case, where it says question, that's the issue in the case. And you'll see here the conclusion in the case and the reasoning. They've summarized it. So you can look at a few of these sites to help you understand the case. Going back to our Google search, again, we have the published opinions. Case law, fine law, that's another site that gives us access to this case, and they've also summarized the information. Okay, so you have another one, fine law, casebriefs.com is another popular one. The Cornell Institute posts these as well. So you can access summarized versions of these longer opinions. So don't steer away from a case just because it's a long published opinion, because you'll be using these kind of revisited versions of the case to help you understand it. You can also click on where it says news. You haven't done that before in Google. It's a quick way to get news articles about the topic you're looking for. So here you can see if there's any articles related to that specific case that can be helpful to you. I encourage you to use that kind of research to help inform your paper, not just the 100-page opinion on the Supreme Court site. You'll be disappointed. For the actual, I'm going to go back here, presentation that you're doing in class, I'm just going to show you a sample. It's just a one-page slide. I actually encourage you to do this part first. It's an outline of your paper. not something different, it's a different work product, it's the same information, and it's the key highlights from it to help serve as an outline or resource while you're presenting to your classmates. So you'll see here, it's just one slide with the key information. So they've in a few bullet points summarized what happened in the case, the relevant law, which is the Fourth Amendment. They're giving the holding, what happened in the case, the opinions. We see the majority, dissent, and concurrence briefly described, and then their own opinion very briefly as well. So it's helpful to do that because it outlines your paper. If you do that first and then write your paper, everything should be clear and addressed well. Questions I have about this project? When's it due? April 4th. So you have some time. I'm not trying to stress you out. I'm giving it to you early for those of you that want to jump start. Glenn?
Do we have to let you know what case we're doing first?
You do not, however, I encourage you to check in with me if you're not 100% sure that that case works for this project. So as you saw, we clicked on a couple that didn't have published opinions. So it's always, there's no harm in just asking me. I'm not mean, I promise. I'll nicely tell you if it works or not. Most of them should work as long as you can find relevant concepts from class to apply. So I'm just saying there's no harm in asking. You're not required to, but it's nice to just double check. I've had students do things before where they go back and do Brown versus Board of Education from quite some time ago, and it really does not hit the project requirements. Taklima?
Maybe better to tell you what case we pick in case someone else picks the same case.
So that's going to happen. In this class, a number of you, usually 3 to 5, will end up doing the same case, and that's all right. That's why we do smaller groups and sharing the presentations, and I try to put you in different groups so you don't all hear the same case. I don't want to not allow you to, I want to make sure you have the chance to look into a case that interests you. So I don't want to restrict you from a certain case just because one of your classmates might be doing it. Okay. Other questions about this project? I'm going to stop the video. I'll upload that for you and